Yo, this is your man's again, Amaja Iwetu. So I'm coming to you today because this is another contribution in this great big old vast pool of waking you cowards and collaborators up. We're having some issues in the ranks. Some of you really are trying to wake up. Some of you are really trying to get it. Some of you are really trying to understand. Some of you are really doing your studies, but far too many of you are not. I'm in the city of Richmond, Virginia. And we just went through some shootings some nights back. And I'm having a misunderstanding with what you natives, what you locals are going to do about fixing the situation for yourself. You don't want the outsider to come in to fix it because they don't talk the way you talk. They don't act the way you act. They're always coming with that outer town jargon or vibe. You guys don't like that, but then you guys that live here, stay here, born and raised here, you're not doing anything to fix it. You're not rallying, you're not protesting, you're not calling your OGs up and saying, what can we do to stop the violence? You're not doing anything. I live here, you're not doing anything. You got a lot of programs, but those programs are coon programs. What do you mean? Those programs really aren't meant to really like stop anything. They're meant to say we tried. They're meant to say we're attempting to, but they're not meant to actually kill it, stop it, dead it. They're not meant for that. They're meant to play the game. And the issue that you're having is you guys really were not bred or raised to be rebel rousers. You guys were really not raised to be leaders. You guys were really not raised to be instigators or antagonizers. You guys were really raised and made to be slaves. You're made to be slaves across the board. That's the system. That's the system that we're in. Let me talk about something. I want to talk about a terminology called epigenetics. Some of you may know it, some of you may not. But epigenetics, I'm going to give you the dictionary version. Then I'm going to give you my take on what it is in layman's terms, hoping that you're better able to understand it. So the dictionary term is the study of changes in organisms caused by modification of gene expression rather than alteration of the genetic code itself. That's the literal dictionary version of it. I got it out of the actually paperback version. I also got it offline to compare and contrast. For the most part, they're the same, so there's no real need to go inside of it and take it out. In a nutshell, what that basically means is it switches certain portions of one's DNA or one's genes off and on, depending on their stress levels. So if you're in an environment such as our ancestors were way back there, what it will do to you is if you are a fighter, Kuta Kente, what it will do is, if you are a fighter and you happen to pass down that fighting gene, your offspring will end up being a fighter because of one of its male or female ancestors. If you're not a fighter, what it will do is it pass down that docile gene to one of its offsprings that was inherited from one of your male or female ancestors. So in a nutshell, what you want to learn is epigenetics, how it works and what it is. However, just because you already have it in your DNA to either be a fighter or not be a fighter, your environment also is an ingredient or an inclusion whether or not that gene kicks on or if it kicks off. So if you were born a coward, you don't necessarily have to die a coward. You have to go through training. You have to go through studying. You have to put yourself in an environment to where they can teach you how to overcome it. But if nobody's teaching you how to overcome it and you're left to do it at your own, under your own devices, your own understanding, chances are, because it's innate, the chances are lesser if you try to do it on your own. Because soon as that greater force, soon as that greater power comes around, you're going to genetically and inherently revert back to somebody scared. Something scared. Same thing we do when we're in class, elementary, same thing we do in high school. Teacher asks us a question, nobody answers the question. Everybody sit trying to wait and see if the smarter kid's gonna say something. The bully kid sit there, he crack a joke, but everybody else is like, ha ha ha. So the same behavior that's happening there is the same behavior happening outside. Epigenetics. You are not trained to fight. Not trained, but you weren't raised to fight. You weren't bred to fight. It's the same thing when it comes to breeding. You already know they had breeding plantations. So if they had breeding plantations, what were they breeding for? We know that they were breeding for other slaves, but what were the characteristics do you guys think that they were breeding for? Do you think they were breeding for Paul Bunyan macho slaves that fight back like Nat Turner? Or do you think they were breeding for big macho brainless slaves that are big and I can use his muscle and his might, but then they're not going to be smart enough to fight back and try to overthrow the plantation? What do you guys think they were breeding for? Same thing when we try to breed pit bulls or Rottweilers or Doberman Pinschers or German Shepherds. You got big German Shepherds, small German Shepherds. You got long German Shepherds, you got short German Shepherds. You got all black Rottweilers, you got not all black Rottweilers, tan and black. So if you're breeding it for a specific purpose, the one that yields you the most amount of pattern, genetic pattern, you're going to keep trying to breed it for that genetic pattern. Black and tan and black, long and girthy. You're going to keep breeding that until you get the perfect genetic resemblance of what you're breeding for. So if you understand that, they do it in botany, which is plants. They do it in animals. They do it in fish. They do it on every living thing on the face of this earth. So how do you think that you were exempt from that experiment? Yes, you dudes, you males, you're not as tough and brave as you guys think you are. This is the reason why you're really not running around here trying to free yourself from your own bondage. You would really prefer for a savior to come do it for you. What does that mean? In this study, in this world, in this arena, you were taught that somebody from up on high is going to crack that sky open, come down and save you and right all the wrongs. That's what you were taught. That's the savior. So if you're not going to be patient and just do what you're told until the savior comes from off high, crack that sky and save you, then what you are going to do is you're going to wait until somebody, either one, comes from out of town and rescues you, or you're going to wait till somebody who's your oppressor or looks like your oppressor comes in and say, hey, we're sorry for what we did to you guys. Please forgive us. Could you, how about this reparations? Will that make things okay? And you've already learned when they give you things, they find ways to take it back. So even if they were to give us reparations, all of us aren't going to be idiots and buy the most expensive car or the most expensive house. Not all of us. But enough of us will blow our reparations, whether it's a check, no matter what it is, we're going to blow it. That's the way this system is set up. That's the way you guys think. You're still running around here after 30 years wanting to put gold teeth in your mouth. That's played out. Why are we still doing that? That's the way you guys think. That's the way the slave thinks. You weren't bred. You weren't raised. The genetics inside of you, you weren't taught to be anything more than a slave. So all you really want to do is play. That's all you want to do. You played on a plantation too. Yeah, it was miserable. It was hard. But you played. You found a way to make that hell a heaven, and you were good with it. And your ancestors, what they did is they passed down that coward gene to you. They taught you in the 70s, don't do that, don't do this. They taught you in the 80s, don't engage, don't worry about it. They taught you in the 90s the exact same thing. And what you have here in 2020 is a repeat of 1960s. That's because the generation that came before us, which is the baby boomer generation, they were cowards. Male and female, they were cowards. For the most part, anybody that was born between 1935 until 1935 up until, I want to say around 2001, you were pretty much born under a coward's banner. You may not have been a coward, but you were under a coward's banner, a coward's rules and regulations. So the generation that was around 1925, 1920, a little bit sooner, they were born fighters. Them boys coming out of the early 1900s, them boys coming out of the end of the 1800s, they were born fighters. Plus they were fresh off of slavery. They were born fighters. They were rough, rugged, and raw. But by the time that 1935 came and you started seeing the war, and you started seeing more males and females engaging in Second World War and coming back from the Second World War and having access to the GI Bill and having access to money and having access to the mills and to the plants, you started to see a psychological paradigm change. That psychological paradigm change started breeding and birthing more and more cowards, because what they wanted to do is get access to white sexuality, and they wanted access to white money, which said that's way more important than fighting for my grandson or granddaughter. If I can get a job at the post office, that'll make everything go okay. If I can get a house over there in Sugar Hill, that'll make everything go okay, because that's more important than this, and this is way better than where I came from. So by the time we came up, 70s, 80s, and 90s, we thought things had changed. A little bit of this and a little bit of that, but for the most part, we thought things had changed. Of course, you got a few of us that never saw the change. So since we never saw the change, since 1990, you got to fight the power. We've been talking about it ever since. But when you guys decided to go ahead and join a sorority or join a fraternity, or decide to become a Mason or something, you pretty much turned your back on us and said that this is more important than that. That is part of that epigenetics. You saw an easier lane, and that coward in you did not stand behind Public Enemy. That coward in you did not stand behind Professor Griff. That coward in you did not stand behind Poor Righteous Teachers or X-Clan, or Ice Cube, no matter which coast you on. That coward in you said, I'd rather go get the money. So remember what I'm saying. I ain't got time for that. The money's more important than that. You use those terminologies, and it sounds like intelligent terminologies. Those terminologies are only intelligent to the coward. Listen to what I'm saying. You're sitting up here, we're talking about life and death. This is August 25th. So if it's 25, you got 24. August 23rd, 2020, a black man at the age of 27 or 29 just got shot in the back 7 times in front of 2 women and 3 of his children, unarmed. We're talking life and death, and you guys are talking about money. We're talking 2 different languages. That's a coward's talk that you're talking. See, because the money that you're talking about getting is not rectifying the situation. It's not making our communities safe. It is not telling our women that we're here to provide and protect them. It's not telling our children that we are the heroes that propel a nation forward. That money that you're talking about destroys communities. That money that you're talking about creates division. That money that you're talking about says, I'd rather pop my vagina for a little bit of this, but that money makes me feel good. The money you're talking about does not bring unity. That money you're talking about does not stop them people from killing us. That money you're talking about is a coward's language. Because if as long as I have this, all else is good. As long as I have this money, I'm good. That's the way a coward talk. Man, you ain't gonna be talking that talk when you get caught, when you go to jail. I'm not talking that talk when I get caught, when I go to jail, because inside that jail it is a language. And that language says we don't engage with political warfare. We engage in this. And this perpetuates the city and the neighborhoods that we live out here. None of us should be really going to the Bing. And if we do decide to go to the Bing because we get caught or whatever, it should not be up here. It should be down here. That's where the criminals lie. But you guys in the last 30 years, you guys have flipped it. And you got the criminals running game like they the kings of the community. You got them being worshipped and praised as heroes. You got criminals being worshipped and praised as heroes. and you got your heroes down here. I'm going to throw one out for you. How many of you are familiar with H. Rap Brown? Who he is he's a original Black Panther Party member. He's alive to this day, sitting inside of somebody's damn penitentiary for life. How many of you all knew about him? Meanwhile, you guys know about Meech, you know about drug dealers left and right. You know their life story, their zodiac sign, you know their birthmark, you know everything about them. You know how many tattoos they got, you know everything about them. And these people, even if you want to throw in Alpo, these people are the people that help bring our community down. There is no way around it. Don't glorify it. Enough of that. It brought our community down. But if you knew about H. Rap Brown and his contribution to the freedom movement, which propelled, which allowed, and which made able for us to get integration, for us to change certain laws, for us to apply the Rainbow Coalition. Yeah, Jesse Jackson came up with it. We got that. We ain't worried about that. But you best believe it was the Black Panther Party that was putting in communities, little communities that would teach, would help vaccinate the children, would help get the medications in the communities, would help with the food drives, would help with the clothing. You better believe it's the Black Panther Party that did that in their time. But because you guys run the way that you guys run, you pretty much killed that for anybody able to do it. Because now you got this motto, my block, and that my block keeps everybody from being able to come around and do good. So when we do good, we can't do good in the hood. We sort of kind of have to come out of the hood to do good. But the hood is what's hurting the most. But because you guys are running around here with my block, you're preventing people from coming in and doing good. Now you got to ask yourself, why are you preventing people from coming in and doing good? It's a common question. It's a senseless question. I'm coming in and I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to right a lot of wrongs. I'm trying to make amends for the things I did. So you're going to prevent me from coming in, making amends for the things I did wrong. But you're not going to aid me and assist me in trying to get these pigs off our back, trying to get reparations, trying to teach our children. I don't want my children growing up doing any of the dumb things I did when I was a teenager. None of them. I don't glorify any bit of it. I talk down about it. If there is no such thing as, well, I had to deal with what I had to deal with because what I was doing, because you got to walk about shoes. I got it. I got it. We got to move past that. Let's move past that. The whole topic is about epigenetics. Epigenetics is a genetic marker that determines whether or not you are going to participate, and it determines whether you're not going to participate. The only things facilitate whether it is or whether it isn't are, one, go back to the beginning, one, genetically, which is DNA, your environment, two, and if not, you have someone that can teach you how to overcome it. And if you're locking up all the males and you're separating the children from their fathers or their positive mothers, who's going to teach these children how to overcome their issues? Plus, you got to remember, they're vaccinating these children with all kind of poisons that take their psychological ability away to be able to think for themselves. Think for themselves. Plus, you have ADHD. Plus, you got Down syndrome. Plus, you got shaken baby syndrome. Plus, you got PTSD. Plus, you got mothers and fathers that were addicts. These babies are born with these deficiencies. You're not a mental case when you're in school, and then all of a sudden, once you become an adult or drop out, all those issues are erased. You're 35 and you can completely think normal. You spent 10 years on somebody's Ritalin medication. Now you're 18. You're grown. You don't have to listen to your mom and take the medicine that used to make you nauseous and sick and give you a headache and make you drowsy. And now you're a 35-year-old adult and you really think you think normal. You really think with all those psychological issues, you can hang in an arena with me. That's why you voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You have no idea what has happened. You have no idea what obstacles you're against. Black family, as always, Black power. Like, click, and subscribe. More coming. Black power.